All right. So when I was in Austin, Texas last month for a live show, we went to your sports business class at the University of Texas in Austin. Had a bunch of really smart people who had been working for a while on a big project. So you explain what the project was.
Yeah, so when the semester began, I'll take you back to January of 2025, and you and Rosillo and a bunch of people were doing check-ins on the NBA vibe. And at that time, the story was ratings are way down. And so we designed a case around what's going on with the NBA and what would you do to change it. And we had a bunch of students, like 40 or 50 students, and we'd work with FanDuel. They'd send us some of their handle data, which was really interesting. So to go beyond just TV ratings and look at betting handle as a proxy for interest in the league as a sort
especially
of
the live betting and all that stuff.
Yeah, because the theory is like whether you gamble or not, I think we would all admit if there are more bets on a game, that probably means more people are paying attention to it. It might not just be on in the background. People are actually paying attention to it. And the key thing we found right away is that it is a good proxy for interest. It mimics a lot of the TV ratings stuff we saw earlier in the season, which sort of troughed in December and rebounded with that famous Christmas night game between the Lakers and Warriors. And now we're slightly down year over year. But I had the students like, hey, what would you do? What would you recommend to the commissioner of the NBA to improve the popularity of our broadcasts and the overall league itself?
So right now, the season is 82 games. It starts on October 22nd this year. It ended on April 13th. It's 24 weeks, 82 games. The play-in is the mid-April. First 3 rounds of the playoffs this year starts April 19th. Ends June 2nd. So it's 7+ weeks for those 3 rounds. And the final starts June 5th and ends June 22nd. And your students decided what?
Got to start it later. Move the start 45 days later in the calendar. Now, their opening day is in December. You still get that Christmas slate, and you go into July, Bill. And this is really for one main reason, which is to get away from the monster that is football, specifically NFL and college football, which hogs all of our attention. It hogs my attention in the fall. It hogs your attention. And we think that there's a compelling case for the NBA to consider moving out from under that boot of the football attention. And in an attention economy, I think if you play more of your games in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, there's a much better chance for better television audiences and other sort of signs of interest.
So 2 things with that. They're launching the season October 22nd. They're going against the World Series. They're going against the NFL season has really kicked into gear. All the teams are starting to play better. It's like the height of college football.
The presidential election.
Oh, yeah. Every 4 years, a presidential election is coming. And they're just popping right in the middle of that. And people are like, cool, thanks. They're going, the way they have it structured now, they're basically going against the NFL for the first 11 weeks of the NBA season. So it's like 45% of the season. They're just going head to head against the NFL. Now the playoffs, there's less games eventually. They have I talked about how stupid this was a couple weeks ago. NFL ends, Super Bowl ends. The NBA has already done their trade deadline, so they lose that whole bump from whenever that happens. And then they go right to the All-Star break. And what happens during the All-Star break? There's no basketball, and everybody's complaining about how bad All-Star weekend is. So that's your first arrival.
Right.
And then what always happens is we hit the end of February, and there's good basketball games, and people are like, whoa, the NBA has got really good. It's like, no, the NBA was really good, actually. You were concentrated on the football. So I was like, in 45 days seemed like a lot to me. And I did all these different, I sketched it out a bunch of different ways. And I think 45 days is around the right number. So
Sure.
The first thing I did was 42. So if you move everything 42 days, that's 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? That starts the season on December 3rd, the week after Thanksgiving. At least that's what would have happened this year. You start December 3rd. 24 weeks, ends May 25th. Play in May 27th to May 30th. First 3 rounds, May 31st, ends July 21st. And then the finals go July 24th, ends August 10th. That seems too late to me. I love to me, the goal should be, how do we get away from football as much as possible? How do we take advantage of all of June instead of having the finals end on like June 18th, June 19th? Why are we throwing away June? And then could July really work for us? And I think we both agree it could. And your students, talk about the case they made for July.
Yeah, July traditionally, and we were lucky enough. Bob Iger came to our class a couple of weeks before and said there's a metric called HUTs, households using television, that traditionally says July is a no-fly zone on television. Like, that's why there's no new shows. But with streaming and the changing landscape of media consumption, even he was saying this is no longer the case. Like, July is open for business. There's streamers that are launching huge shows during the summer now. I think it's a little bit antiquated to say that there's no business case for playing high-level basketball games.
It's a lot antiquated. Yeah, I don't think this shit matters anymore. The whole model of like TV goes from September to May, and we have 3 networks, and we release stuff, and we have sweeps, and like, it's fucking out. Shows can hit any time of the year.
And if you're on vacation, you bring your cable package with you. All of us are bringing Hulu or YouTube TV or whatever it is with us wherever we're going. I do think it is a fair criticism, Bill, to say that the NBA finals being in July would be annoying to a lot of the key stakeholders, whether those are the players, the coaches, the executives, the people running the buildings. People in Phoenix or Los Angeles might not want to be in town in July. Those kinds of thoughts are relevant here. But ultimately, I think there is a strong business case to be made that we could play the playoffs in the finals later in the spring than we currently do. That's where I landed. That's where the students landed. And I think it's compelling enough the league should consider it.
Well, so there's 2 big things. One, the number of weeks you could just get away from football is just a 100% positive. That's it. Like, you're not equal to football. You're not going to be. It's a way bigger audience. You don't have the gambling fantasy stuff that football has. You don't have the ability for everybody to mobilize around Sundays. And football is getting better and better at doing their own schedule. They're better at, oh, here's a Friday game. Oh, now we're going to have 2 Christmas games. Oh, now we're going to tackle Saturdays. Like, football is just going to get better and better at killing the NBA during these first 2 months. So the more you can get away from that, the better. And then I just feel like for the NBA, April, May, June, July should be the peak months, and all of July. So one of the things I was looking at, if you moved everything 42 days, but you had a 76-game regular season, so everybody loses 3 home games, 3 away games. Sorry, you guys just signed a $76 billion deal. You'll be fine. That would start the season on December 3rd, but ended on May 11th, 22 weeks, 76 games. Play in May 13th to May 16th. First 3 rounds, May 17th to July 7th. Now we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
Finals, July 10th to July 27th. And now all we've done is we've targeted basically post NFL draft our 3 best months of the season. We don't have to worry about the NFL at all. It's out. And the only thing we'd have to worry about is like the freaking Olympics. But I don't think the NBA players should send our guys to the Olympics anyway, so we're fine. With that, so I've asked NBA people about this in the past, and they said the biggest reason they wouldn't move it is because of the summer schedule, because we need our summers. It's the 2 months off. Our kids are home from school, whatever. Counter. You'd still have August. During July, you're working anyway with the Vegas Summer League. That's become like almost a 2-week event.
Mm-hmm.
I would get rid of Vegas Summer League completely and use that so that we're done July 27th. The draft is July 31st. Tone down Summer League. Don't make it this huge thing. And then you basically get August and September and half of October off before we get the pre. That makes way more sense to me.
Yeah. I think it would make way more money too. And there's one word that hasn't come up, which explains why it isn't like this already, and that's baseball. When the NBA started, avoiding baseball on the calendar was that era's version of avoiding football now.
Right.
Mickey Mantle and the Yankees, we can't compete with that. Like, let's let's start our season right after the World Series. Like that was the logic. This is now an updated version of that, where Mickey Mantle and the Yankees is now Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Good point.
And one further point, what did Disney just do this week or last couple of weeks is get off of their baseball relationship. That's one of the major media partners, and they need inventory later into the spring and summer.
Right.
There's no Sunday night baseball anymore. Well, let's put the first round of the playoffs into April, May, June, and give them more summertime content for those key moments, because they're also strapped down with football for the entire fall too. So I think there's a lot of compelling reasons to think about this from a media perspective, and as a league that's trying to gain more eyeballs and revenue in an attention economy that's increasingly competitive and increasingly in the sports world dominated by both pro football and high-level college football in the fall.
Yeah, if you're being smart about this, everything moving later also means the trade deadline is after the NFL season. Your all-star break and all-star game, if you have one, now that's moving to mid-March, maybe even during March Madness. Maybe you just don't have an all-star game anymore and you just have all-star break is March Madness. I still love Chris Ryan's idea of having all-star break actually just be bye weeks with 10-team bye weeks, 3 weeks in a row, where each set of 10 teams gets 1 week off. And I would get rid of the all-star game. I don't think it works. If they want to have some sort of big corporate event, make that the NBA Cup whenever you have that. But the big thing to me that we know we're right is because some of the stuff that they're already doing is a reaction to the fact that football is just killing them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Moving the TNT Barkley show from Thursdays to Tuesdays during the NFL season is a direct concession that you're getting destroyed on Thursday nights.
That's right.
Just period. Doing this NBA Cup thing is a direct concession that nobody gives a shit about the NBA in late October, November, and December. And you need to do something to be like, hey, we're over here. They just need to move it. And here's the other thing, Kirk Goldsberry. We know expansion's coming, 32 teams. If there's ever a time to go to a 69 game schedule, it's when they do these expansion teams, because 32 games, you play the other 31 teams twice, right? You have 4 8-team divisions. So you play everybody twice and you play everyone in your division one more time, and it's 69 games total. All right, so let's start the season December 10th. Let's end it May 4th. Let's play a 20-week season. Let's start the play in May 6th and May 9th. Let's play the first 3 rounds May 10th to June 30th, and let's start the finals July 3rd, end on July 20th with a 69-game schedule. There's no fucking way you can tell me that's not going to be better for the NBA.
If attention is good, then that's better. And I think the other thing you mentioned in there is like make the NBA Cup the All-Star game right after the Super Bowl. That's our welcome back to the NBA moment for football. Right. It's such a great format. Shout out to the NBA for adding that. It really makes those meaningful one-game events that the NFL has taught us are so great. But the NBA Cup is a winning addition to the calendar. And I think you're right. I think we could survive in July. I don't know about Summer League in August. That's a tricky part. There will be people who are annoyed.
You just have it for don't make it as big of a thing as it was, and just make it like if you're going to do a counter on this, the hardest thing to figure out is the college season ends, kids graduate, but you wouldn't be able to have the draft until July, end of July. So none of those kids would know where they're playing, who they're working out for an extra 6 weeks. That's not nothing. Maybe you have the draft between the regular season and the playoffs. I don't know. But that's the only part I couldn't figure out.
Well, so let's say, early April, college season ends. If we're not starting until December, who cares if the draft is not till the August or whatever? I think that's fine.
Right. Those kids are all working out on themselves. All right. Screw the rookies. So I'm going to go through this one more time. 69 game regular season once we have 32 teams. Starts December 10th, ends May 4th. We could even say we'll give everyone an extra week. It'll start May 11th, but let's say May 4th. The playoffs are done. First 3 rounds on June 30th. Finals goes July 3rd, right before July 4th, which would be cool, through July 20th. And we're done on July 20th. So we basically if you shorten the season and then move it and it's a month longer, and now I'm concentrating on my best stuff in May, June, July, that's how you win. And this is how they have to think. And if they don't start thinking this way, I'm going to really start thinking that they need new leadership at the top. I know they got this giant media deal, but these are easy fixes that they should do.
Well, and the other thing that I think is starting to percolate out there is this rumor of alternate leagues coming around. And I think that
it's not a rumor anymore.
It's not a rumor anymore. And I wonder, in an era where Live Golf came in and the Saudi soccer thing came in, if the league keeps jamming us up with 82 games and making it such a slog, if they don't show some concession to the athletes or to the players, are they making these rival league potentials more attractive to some of their talent around? And you can call me crazy all you want. I'm saying if you follow soccer or golf, you've just seen this. Those things weren't going to be real until they were. I think there's a real chance. The NBA needs to be proactive here. That's what I would say. Keep being proactive. Don't be reactive here. There's a chance to make the NBA better. And if you look at the numbers, I think it was Lakers Celtics biggest broadcast of the year. Perfect. Right. When did that happen? After the NFL. If you put that game on Wild Card Saturday, you're done. Nobody watches that. And you put it instead in March, and here we have 5 million people watching it on American television. That's a big deal. That's the kind of incremental improvement we could ramp up across the business if we got out of the way of football.
Well, one of the cool things that your students did, I mean, there's all this anecdotal evidence we have anyway that football is just destroying everyone else and that it's an absolute monster. But then the college football piece, not just NFL, where college football really crests from the end of August, mid-November probably, and then we start getting it. So it's probably mid-November range. So you're going against two monoliths every weekend, right? I just don't know why you would do that if you don't have to. The only thing, my big takeaway is, and I didn't really think about it until I was in your class, it makes zero sense to start on October 22nd, October 23rd, anywhere in October. It's fucking stupid. They shouldn't do it anymore. And if they're going to move, if they want to move it to mid-November, even that makes more sense.
Right.
But first week of December makes the most sense. And they just have to start thinking that way. And I really think if you're just trying to get basketball, NBA nirvana for how a season should go, it should be 69 games. It should start in December and it should end in July. And they're going to win if they do that.
One of the people at the NBA told me is we came up with the NBA Cup as a way to sort of help the owners compensate for a loss of regular season inventory. And when confronted with the idea, hey, let's go down to 70 games or 74 games, we're going to add this in-season property to compensate for that. We'll sell it to a media partner. The owners, of course, came back with, well, why don't we do 82 games and the in-season tournament and not lose any money? So I think somebody needs to do a better job of convincing owners and players that somehow we're going to make the same amount of total revenue if we drop the games to 70, 69, whatever we decide. Because right now, that's the case that has failed to make it across the table and land with the owners. And that's the simple reason why we still have 82 games.
Hey, I have a question. How much fucking revenue do you need? We're going to have guys making $75 billion a year. How much is enough? You just signed a $76 billion deal. Do what's best for the sport. Try to grow the sport. And this is the best way to do it. You mentioned the alternative league. So it's being pushed by Maverick Carter, who's LeBron, one of his business guys. And when I heard about it, I just thought it was bullshit because I didn't think it was real because I thought initially everyone thought those guys were getting the Vegas team. And then I think it's wide open. I don't think they have any inside track at all. And in fact, there's other groups that I would bet on before them. And I thought this was a ploy by them to pretend they're raising Saudi money and blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, all right, we'll drop it if we get the Vegas team. That's not the case. They have got a shitload of money for this and a plan. And everything I've heard is that it's kind of real. I don't know if they have all the money yet, but they have enough that could you form a 6-team league and convince 5, 6, 7 stars to basically jump when their contracts? I think the contracts would have to be over, but I look at Luka, he's done in 26. That's somebody all right, if he's could this be a live situation? What does he care? He doesn't have any loyalty to the NBA. He just got traded. So could you build a league and have like 6, 7 Luka type guys? Hey, Luka, here's $100 million a year. You're playing a 35 game season, and you're going to be one of the faces of this league. Like, I think it's real, and I think the NBA owners are a little more worried about it than I think has been reported so far.
Yeah, imagine a world where you get paid more money to play less basketball and travel around the world. Way less basketball, right? Imagine a world where you're paid more money to play less basketball, travel around the world. You get to live, if you're Luka. I haven't heard anything, but if you're Luka, you can live in Slovenia and make these flights to Singapore or Manila or Shanghai to play in this touring style F1 almost structured basketball league. Again, anybody who's followed soccer or golf knows this could happen. It's happened. So to sit here and say this is impossible is to be naive. And
it's also that we're in a world right now where rich people throw money at sports stuff. It's just a fact. We're in a world now where the Saudis and everybody on that side of the world is pumping incredible amounts of money into UFC and the WWE and boxing. Like they've completely transformed boxing. To think that they couldn't decide to just do that with basketball is nuts.
It's naive. And basketball's legitimately a global sport now. In the NBA, it is a global league to its credit. I got to go to Paris and watch NBA games, but that was 2 games on the continent of Europe all year long. People in the Philippines would kill to see this level of basketball. People in China, people in Europe, people in Africa, Australia. This is truly a global game, unlike baseball or football. And so I think that makes it even more attractive to somebody to come through and try to disrupt it. Because you know what? Memphis and Cleveland, those are cool cities, but so are Singapore and Shanghai. And there's real money around there.
You mentioned that it's a global game. They also have players that I think unlike with some of the golfers, you have players that have huge social media footprints that if they switched leagues or went or did something else, they'd actually be able to promote themselves, you know? And it's like, I remember when my contract was almost up with ESPN and it seemed like people thought I was going to leave and they were writing about it. It's like, well, you can't leave ESPN. You can't leave the machine. It's like, guess what? And then all of these people over the next 10 years, including myself, were able to leave and start stuff. And it's like, you don't need the fucking machine. I don't think the basketball players need the machine. Well, I think if they were part of another league, I think people would pay attention to it.
Dude, down here in Texas, there's like more than one of my friends, multiple friends, Mavericks fan friends that are not joking when they say I'm rooting for the Lakers this year.
Right.
Like maybe these brands aren't as strong as we think they are in the social media era where you say,
no,
Luka
not with
Doncic
kids.
is on. Yeah. Oh, I'm
kids
a Luka
follow
Doncic
the players.
Fan. Yeah. Shout out to Jason Gallagher's kid again. I mean, like that's the future. I'm just
Gallagher's kid. Just repeated mentions on the pod.
Yeah,
no, you're right though. They're just going to follow. They'll follow him there, and guess what? They'll probably follow him too when he's playing for the Singapore Giants.
That's what I'm saying. That's what soccer's taught us, dude. I mean, that's exactly how these kids follow soccer. They're Ronaldo or they're Messi or they're Mbappe, and they're going with them wherever that's going. Why wouldn't that happen to these athletes that are just as popular?
Well, I'll tell you this. The NBA has to start taking all this shit seriously. They're throwing away the first 2 months of the season every year. The season's too long. Nobody likes it. The players don't like it. There's all these solutions that they're unwilling to explore. They're going to add 2 teams and somehow keep an 82 game schedule, which is fucking stupid. And they have all this money that they already got that allows them now the luxury to rethink this whole system. And that's how they should be thinking. And if they're not thinking that way, they need new people to run the league.
And one last point about the 82 games. It's more than just too much inventory. Load management, if you look at the data, load management really annoys fans. People don't want to turn on TNT like we did for that Celtics-Sixers game the other night and see the Maine Red Claws and the Delaware 87ers.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that happens is we're putting too many games out there. If we had fewer games, there'd be fewer load management situations. We would have full teams playing each other. The product would be better on average.
Well, you'd also have a situation like Philly is now punted on their season. You don't have to watch the zombie Sixers for the next 2 months. Not give a shit. Like, all right, we're out way sooner, you know?
simulation mode. You can enter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a big thing, Bill. I think the shorter season where games feel more like events, it takes a little blind faith to see that could get you to more revenue. But I love your point about, hey, well, you just locked up this huge media rights deal. Do you really need a lot every
People
cent?
are paying the most money they've ever paid for your teams. Like this is a time now to be proactive and try to get better at stuff. And that this is going to require real vision. And it's not just like we've come up with the NBA Cup. We've added a new event to All-Star Weekend on Saturday. It's like, we're not talking about that. Like you have a chance to actually fix shit. All right, Kirk Goldsberry, it was fun to sit in your class. Shout out to your students. That was a great presentation. I will see you soon. Say hi to everybody in Austin.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.